All right. May I request my panel to just come for a group photo? The cameraman has reminded me. As I request the online participants to be upgraded to panelists, we have Mr. Biyi Oladipo, who is also the vice chairperson of the country code name supporting organization, one of the vice chairs from the Africa region. I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself. He will moderate this session remotely. We also have Neil Dundas, the CEO of DNS Africa, who is joining us remotely. Neil will be making a presentation. If you could kindly facilitate that, technical team. And I'll also request Joel to join me. He will also give a perspective on emerging issues in the Africa DNS landscape. So this session is going to provide insights and perspectives on the readiness of the African domain name marketplace and industry to benefit from emerging technological, business, and marketing trends. Just listening into the previous conversation, there were good questions and challenges raised by Alain Aina on whether we are really moving. And I think as Alain was asking his questions, I thought about a West African proverb which says that when a bird overstays on a branch, it attracts a stone. So could it be that we are overstaying in the same place? That's why we need to be moved to the next level, for lack of a better word. So there are many things that need to be addressed. The market has shifted in the African ecosystem. Let me say that in the last 10 years, the focus has largely been on preparing ourselves technically, but we are in a new decade. In a new decade, we have to change the way we are doing things. We have to change the way we are approaching the DNS. The DNS is no longer a technical tool to be played with. It is a business, and business requires strategy or calls for strategy. As Dr. Alex Kohantha has rightly said in his intervention earlier, there's a multiplicity of actors in this ecosystem who affect how the ecosystem operates. So sometimes it's not just the registry. We are seeing entry of regulators into managing registries or running registries. Is this the right thing that we should do? What is the best practice? Who should we go to have these conversations? We have the Africa Telecommunications Union. We have the International Telecommunications Union. What is their role? And how do we engage with them? Because if we get it wrong, then we will have fights. I think the KeNIC chair raised an issue about a number of African CCTLDs that are big and asked why are they not participating in the broader DNS ecosystem. Of course, if you dig deep, you will find that some of the issues are issues that neither you nor myself can be able to address, but they need institutional mechanisms that are able to address them, issues of best practice. So for this and many others, I'm sure the next panel that is coming up is going to give us insights into what are some of these emerging issues and how can we be able to tackle them going forward. With those many remarks, Biyi, if you are ready, I would like to hand over the reins of the panel to you so that you can move us forward.
All right, thank you very much, Barak. I hope people can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, clear. Excellent, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say big thank you and congratulations to FTLD and ICANN for the 10th edition of the DNS Forum. It's a journey that's taken a while, and I see that on the continent we're getting a lot more active with this, and it's something that is gladdening. Whether we beat ourselves or we congratulate ourselves, I think we deserve a little pat on the back for at least sustaining this up till this time. So having said that, my name is Biyi Oladipo, and as I've been introduced, I'm one of the councillors on the CCNSO representing the continent on the CCNSO Council, and I also happen to be one of the vice chairs of the CCNSO and CCNSO Council. And I have the privilege of being able to being the one that would moderate this session today. And there are topical issues which are things that we should give good thoughts on. Imagine issues, where have we been, where are we going, are there opportunities in the space, have we been able to take advantage of the opportunities that we have in the space? If we have, what other new opportunities are there that we could see that we should be looking at? We have two panelists today who are going to do justice to this discussion, one from the technical side and the other from the business side. For people who have listened to me from time to time, each time I have an opportunity to share thoughts, especially when it comes to DNS in the African space. You know that I'm very passionate about the development of the commercial or the business side of things. And we'll see how we'll have those discussions today and see where we're going to. Without much ado, I'm going to introduce the panel. I'll call the panel to introduce themselves, and then we will go into the discussions. Apart from the presentations, I would like us to have this as a frank discussion amongst ourselves, both with people on the panel and also the people in the room and the people online. I would like us to have very frank discussions. Let's look at the space and see if we have done a good job. Per mentioned the DNS market survey that was done a few years ago, and that the version 2 is being launched to start soon. What have we found as far as that survey is concerned? Is it something that is usable? Is it something that we can look at and say, oh, this is what space is going to in Africa, and then we can take advantage of them. So to do justice to the technical part side, I have Neil Dundas. Neil is the CEO of DNS, who's played a big role as far as the DNS space is concerned in Africa. And then we have Joel Karubiu. Joel is the CEO of KeNIC, and Joel will be handling discussions around the business side of emerging issues and emerging trends. So I'm going to leave it to both of them to introduce themselves, and then we would have Neil kick off with the his thoughts on the technical trends. So Neil and Joel, take it off, introduce yourselves, and then Neil would have your presentation.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me on that side? Is my sound good?
Excellent, Neil. I can hear you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for the introductions, Biyi, and hello to everyone in Nairobi. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to join you, but work pressures have kept me behind my desk, and I'm glad to join you even with this remote chance. Yeah, some background about me quickly. I won't get into my presentation until after Joel has introduced himself, but as B said, I'm the CEO of Domain Name Services, South African-based company, as well as a company based in Mauritius called DNS Africa Limited. And I've been involved with those companies in the domain name business in Africa for since 1998, when I was a practicing lawyer and became involved in matters relating to the internet and specifically domain names. The companies that I head up are tech companies that specialize in providing technical type solutions and business type solutions for the domain name registry, registrar, reseller, and end user space. So we try and play in the broadest possible market when it comes to domain name related technologies and solutions. And and I think we've sort of had some experience over the past 10 or so years in terms of how that space in Africa has evolved. And I'm happy to share some of my thoughts and thinking with every one of you. So that's the brief introduction from my side. Originally, I was an attorney, and now I've left practice, and I am specifically focusing on domain name technologies. Joel, over to you.
Thank you, Neil, and good morning as well. I'll probably introduce myself a number of times this week. Joel Karubiu, currently the CEO at Kenya Network Information Center, KeNIC, the registry for the .ke domain in Kenya, and I'm happy to be on this panel to share some of the things that we've been doing to just try and move the business from just being a registry to being a commercial entity. So looking forward to the conversation this afternoon. Thank you. Back to you, Neil.
Thanks. I'd like to, if possible, share my screen. I'm not sure if that's allowable, or if maybe someone on the technical side they can share the slideshow that I. Oh, here we go.
Yep.
They've allowed me to do that. Okay, let me just quickly share the screen. Put it into presentation mode for you. Can everyone see that screen? Should be coming up.
Go ahead.
Okay, brilliant. Again, just quickly, I'm the CEO of a company called Dundas Africa and Domain Name Services, a company specializing in technical solutions to the broadest possible market of the domain name ecosystem, from registries, registrars, resellers, and registrants. And it was with this sort of background that I'm regularly actually asked to participate in these type of discussions and panel discussions and presentations. It was just a little bit more than a year ago when we had our last DNS Africa forum, and part of that theme was emerging technological business and marketing trends in the DNS in Africa. And my central message when I presented on the panel was that there is a huge opportunity for African innovators in the domain name and internet space to really leapfrog what the rest of the world is doing when it comes to evolving trends and technologies. And my central message there was we should leapfrog and not sleepfrog. And the issue there was that Africa is very, very willing to embrace change. We're regarded as early adopters of new technology. We have very accommodating regulatory environments, and there's huge opportunities for us to explore. And it is within that context that I think I want to delve into some of the thinking that that has evolved in my mind, at least since the discussion we had just more than a year ago in the last DNS forum. To me, there's a number of opportunities and a number of trends that have sort of evolved over the last 13 to 18 months. And I just want to, if I may, just focus on two elements specifically. There are many others, and we can have a broader discussion about those, but the two main elements that I think are exciting and maybe can unlock a lot of the potential of the domain name space in Africa for both registries and registrars on the continent are really subdivided into two major categories. The one category is user interfaces. And by this general category, I'm talking about trying to get the services to end users in the most efficient, accommodating way possible. So in other words, instead of just adopting the traditional way of servicing and delivering domain name services to end users, we as people in this industry, as technical providers, as business operators, we should be finding ways of bringing the domain name system and services closer to those end users, to get into those underserved regions. And the best way to do that is to explore all possible ways of providing users with an interface into the system, as well as providing technical partners with different ways of integrating into these systems. So a lot of our energy as a tech solution provider in the DNS space has been focused on developing these user interfaces and the user experience that comes with it. One of the projects we've been focusing on, and I'm not going to bore you with the detail around this, but it's an African developed, born and bred solution, is a mobile app that integrates with our registry infrastructure and solutions that is able to present a very user-friendly interface to end users in underserved regions. And it can actually facilitate what we would term an informal domain reseller market, where people can actually create budding businesses reselling domain names and domain name related services into the rural areas by using their mobile devices. So this is a technology, I'm sure it's not novel throughout the world, but it is, I think we are pushing a bit of the envelope when it comes to presenting this type of technology and type of interface to the world. And I think it has a lot of promise in Africa, where mobile use is very, very high, and internet penetration is growing with smart devices. So we've tried to develop solutions that are user-friendly, provide a very good user experience, and are actually effective in the domain and administration services to those end users, possibly even using intermediaries like resellers and informal resellers. So TalkTalk is one of those examples, one of the technologies or solutions we've been trying to pioneer. I can tell you that we've had some good success as far as this goes, and we're constantly getting a good stream of people signing up and making use of this technology. And obviously, in doing so, we've also come to learn about how we can improve that solution for end users. So it's under constant development and enhancement strategy from our side. The way we've approached this technology is that we've made it sort of non-dependent on a particular device. So obviously you can use it on a mobile device. The solution also works just as well on a browser. And the technology behind this is essentially a set of JSON APIs that make calls into our EPP system or an EPP system. And this allows us to render a user interface very easily, very simplistically, and customize it to the particular needs of a particular market. So the typical solution we have for TalkTalk is available through a web browser. It's also available through your mobile device. And part of this experience to sort of take a leaf out of the book of what's happening in the US and the sort of escalation, if you like, or the popularity of social media. So a big drive from our side is not only to provide these tools for end users and stakeholder community at large, develop really useful content and promotional activities around how these tools can be used and deployed. So we've developing and using social media platforms. We've created a YouTube channel with tutorials on it, and we promote a sense of community, if you like, by using these social media tools like Instagram and Facebook and the like. So it's not just a technical solution per se. We have to also think of a broader type of solution when we approach markets, especially in Africa. We have to find ways of engaging those markets and giving them as much information as possible to arm them with the right tools so that they can actually make something of it. They can actually get something of it. They can actually get to the solution. So these user interfaces are extremely important, I believe, for the future success of the domain industry in Africa. And the idea is obviously to provide good tools, to provide good user experience, to provide effective services through these mechanisms, and then to promote knowledge and create tutorial knowledge through using existing platforms like social media and YouTube and the like. But it's not just user interfaces and user experiences. From our perspective, a large portion of our customers, especially on the continent, are also looking at solutions where they can more easily integrate with a registry solution. So that is whether you are a registry provider and facilitating connectivity to registrars, or a registrar facilitating connectivity to a reseller. We've also found it important to sort of enhance the type of interconnectivity and integration that we can, or possibilities that we can provide to our customers and to the community at large. So EPP has always been the go-to when it comes to domain name provisioning for a registry in particular. And that, you know, we're not going to get away from that. That is still the stalwart, and a large number of more sophisticated registrars prefer to connect via EPP, especially international registrars connecting into African registries. But we've also found that providing other forms of connectivity into the registry environments or the registrar environments, like JSON APIs, plugins like WHMCS, and then web interfaces, are part of the bouquet of services and opportunities to integrate that we have to provide out there. So we've also focused on trying to expand the ways in which our systems can be connected to. And we've had a lot of success with developing a very, very user-friendly JSON API that allows people to develop their own customized user front ends to a lot of the services that we can provide in the backend. I think we need to also remember that EPP does require some specialist knowledge, so it's not in everyone's competency to integrate via EPP with a registry. I think sometimes we have to reach out a little bit and make sure that people in the industry that have some degree of web service background and skills are also able to integrate with these services. And that's where something like these APIs become very, very useful, because it's something that a lot of current technical providers are more familiar with, and they have more skills and capacity around those type of interfaces. So that's sort of been a drive from our side. That's the one element that we've been focusing on, is this connectivity, is the user experience and the user interfaces. And I think we will continue as a business anyways to evolve that service offering going forward. We believe it's the most effective way to reach the underserved communities in Africa. So that's the first part of it. The second part is really a massive focus on our side on data analysis and providing data-driven solutions to our customers in the form of what our technical service offering can provide. And obviously the underlying principles of why we're doing this is that we would like to see registries and registrars and resellers, sort of bed their decision-making on good data. So, in order to do this, we need to make sure that that people's decisions is based on data, that data is trustworthy, and that it can be accessed autonomously by people that need to make those decisions, that the quality and the governance around that data is of an agreeable and acceptable standard. In other words, that people that should get access to that data should have access, and people that shouldn't get access to it, and that access should also be automated so that people can self-service their data needs so that they can make decisions. And then obviously we're talking about the technical aspects around how that data is stored, how it's going to be accessible, and how reporting can be visualized for end users. So this is sort of a drive from our side, is to look at data in a new light when it comes to the domain name world, especially the registry environment, and try and provide as much data as possible within the framework of this decision-making model that allows our customers, registries and registrars, etc., to make informed decisions and to sort of customize their strategies of how to go forward. From our perspective, the solution is the development of a new component to our technical solution in the form of a data warehouse, and we had to develop quite a bit of in-depth knowledge and understanding of how these processes work. We had to get experts in to help us with the design and conceptualization of how a data warehouse should be established, how it should be structured, what sort of advantages and disadvantages it may have. So a data warehouse is the ultimate solution that we've settled on, and this is something that we're building on top of our current technical solution in order to drive this data-driven decision-making by our customers. And part of that decision, as many of you may be aware that are involved in the domain name world or the registry world, is that the data that we have in our registries is not always as user-friendly as we would like. A lot of times the data that we really need to make informed decisions is spread across different systems, from billing systems to logs to registry systems. And we sort of had to deal with this challenge when we were looking at providing an end solution for our customers. So we had to look at models around how do we actually transform and store data and model it in a way that it becomes user-friendly for people to interrogate and to generate reporting and base decision-making on. Obviously, some of the tools that we wanted to bring in to all of this, or the outcomes at least from all of this, was that we wanted to generate our reporting, especially our dashboard reporting in our technical solutions. We wanted to base those visual reports from an authoritative source, the data warehouse. We want to update those dashboards. We want to make them more intuitive and more accessible. So that was an idea we kept in our minds when we were designing this, or during the design of the solution. But we also wanted to go a step further than that and not just provide people with pre-populated or predetermined dashboards. We also wanted to allow customers, registries, and registrars out there to be able to do their own analysis on the data. And in order to do that, we needed to get the data, the registry data, transformed and modeled in a particular way that you could use your own business intelligence tools on top of that, so that you can interrogate the data and generate the outcomes that will help you inform your decisions. So there were two components. One was the components of reporting that we would normally bring about in our user interfaces, and this would be reporting that would be exposed to both registries and registrars specific to their businesses to help them make sort of tactical decisions, and then also the facility or the ability for registries and registrars to bring their own business intelligence tools to the party and interrogate data that belongs to them so that they can make more informed decisions. And part of this whole exercise was finding ways of how we would model the data in the data warehouse so that it could be up to a standard where general data analysis could be conducted in an easy to understand and effective manner. And then we actually developed these with the help of data scientists at various universities and institutions based both in Mauritius and in South Africa. And I think we've come up with a solution that is workable, but it's still in its pilot phase at the moment. And we have a lot of hope and expectation for the solution in the longer term. This is just an instance of some of the dashboard reporting that we currently have that sort of informs tactical decisions. And to give an idea of what the age analysis is of the domains in your registry, to look at renewal rates, to look at transactional reporting. All of these type of aspects help the decision makers in coming to their decisions. And if any of those of you that are more technically inclined, we have sort of adopted Snowflake as a platform for our data warehouse, and Snowflake in itself provides a whole host of reporting mechanisms that help you visualize the data in the registry. So it's an exciting project for us. It's very topical at the moment. Data analysis and data science is very topical at the moment worldwide. And we do believe that there is a lot of important information in registry and DNS data out there. And part of our focus has been to try and find ways of bringing that data closer to the decision makers and to be able to give them effective data that they can actually interpret. And that's it from my side. Thanks, Biyi.
Thank you so much. I see a number of exciting things that you're working on. And one important thing for me is that the technical solutions that you are working on actually are driving the business and the way the business should function. I especially like the data the data and analytics part of it, which helps with business intelligence. But we'll interrogate that as we go further. Let me call on Joel to have his own presentation. Thank you, Neil. Joel, let's have from the business side, what are the emerging trends that you that you can see.
Thank you, B. I don't believe in presentations, so I'll speak from the heart because B asked us to be as honest as possible. So I'll look at it from a business trend perspective. And the first question I'll ask, I'm not the moderator, but I'll ask this question. How many registries in Africa have the courage to hire an untechnical person to run their business? That's the first question I'll leave to you. I hope we'll get an answer before. Why do I ask this question? Because I believe that as of today, most registries are technically sound. We've worked hard as registries to help each other to ensure that the infrastructure is stable, the infrastructure is working. And the next aspect is the commercial aspect. And that, I think, is the area that we are trying to address in terms of how do we move the business from just looking at it from infrastructure and now saying, how do we get more domains and how then do we retain those domains? I know that is a big challenge in this room across all my friends in the different CLDs, where our retention rates are quite dismal, so to speak, in terms of we delete as many as we register in the course of a year. So we collaborate as different CLDs to ask ourselves, how do we do this better? Now, from a KeNIC perspective, just from introduction perspective, as you've heard, we are 20 years old. In the last 20 years, we've only managed to about 100,000 domains. Now, in relation to a 55 million population in Kenya, really, that's a question we keep asking ourselves every single day. Should we be doing more? Yesterday, for those of you who are on the panel, I think Barak made some sweeping comments around if there are 30 million or 50 million mobile subscribers, then we should have 50 million domain names. Domain names and numbers should be working in tandem, as we assume. But is that the reality? It is not the reality. The reality is my mobile is fast to call, and I have been given enough apps and tools within my mobile to be able to communicate without actually needing to go onto the internet and having a domain name. Now, how do we change that conversation? I think that's where the business trends of the future is going, that if I have a telephone number or a mobile number, is there association with a domain? And can there be an association with a domain in one form or the other? An opportunity that we must all think through and unpack as we move along. Secondly, the 55 million number may look good, so I'll try and reduce it. We probably have about 3 million registered businesses in Kenya. Out of the 3 million registered businesses in Kenya, I only have 100,000 domains. Where are the rest and what are they doing? And how are they communicating to their clients? Yesterday and today morning, I've had comments around Facebook, I've had comments around Instagram, WhatsApp, that's where business is happening today. So are we saying, maybe another controversial question I'll leave, are we saying that the domain name space is on its way out? That there are new ways to communicate and the domain name will not be relevant in a couple of years? I don't know. And I hope in this room, in the next 2 days, we'll be able to address that question because it's an important question we must ask ourselves. These 3 million of my Kenyan businesses, they're making money, they're trading, they're communicating. Why aren't they on the domain name space? And why are they not on .ke? I will not say that they're not on .ke or they're not on .com, they might be. And I think in our business, we've realized that we must work in tandem. There are those who will go for generic top domain, and there are those who will look for the country code top domain. The thing that me and my partners in the office always say, we must be online first. So where they are online, we must be. Now, if they choose to come on the .ke platform, we are more than happy to welcome them. If they choose to go to my friend Lucky at .africa, we are proud that .africa is becoming bigger and bigger. If they choose to go on .com, we ask you some hard questions. Why are you taking money out of our continent? But that again is another controversial question that we shall discuss. So what are the business trends? Social media is becoming bigger. Social media is a platform that people are using more. People are making money off their phone. I had a conversation this morning about payment channels. People are making money off their phone. They don't need some of the things that this room is trying to offer, if I may say so. So what is the different? What can we do differently to ensure that as much as they're going there, they must have that online presence that will help them move forward? Now, what has KeNIC done to just sort of like address some of those things? And I think I'm in another panel in the afternoon, which we'll also discuss further. But there are things that we've discussed. One is a multi-stakeholder approach. We realized as KeNIC that we cannot work in isolation. We cannot say we are the .ke, we are a monopoly, if you may say so. There is no one else who can register can run the .ke registry in Kenya. So in a way, I'm a monopoly. So do I sit on my laurels and say, since I'm a monopoly, you should come to me? That realization is not the truth. The realization is we have to go out to the market. We have to go to the market and make them understand why it's important to get online, and to get online in the right platform, which is having that unique identifier, which is your country code. So KeNIC has taken the approach of working through partners. One, we believe in the 3R model, which allows us to work with our registrars. In Kenya, we have 200 registrars. As KeNIC, we ensure that those 200 registrars, we see them as often as possible. Neil has talked about collecting data. That's where we collect our data from. We go to these registrars, we ask them what is happening in the market, because they're the ones who have the foot soldiers. As KeNIC, I have a staff complement of 15 people only. So I cannot go into a 50 million population and see those people. So my registrars are my first point of call. In your regions, how are you then supporting your registrars to be that buffer between you and the registrant, to ensure that you and the registrant are always communicating? So again, for us as KeNIC, registrars are our pivot. They're our backbone. They're the ones who make our business run. Without them, we would not be here. So we have taken a deliberate effort to ensure that our registrars know about our products. We train, we speak often, we visit, we do surveys, just to ensure that there's information, and then there's an ability for us to co-create opportunities together. Now that brings me to the other point, which is co-creation and collaboration. We as KeNIC cannot give every single solution. We can only suggest some things from the registry perspective. As you may well know in the mandates, and maybe some mandates for other registries might be different, our one mandate is to have a secure domain name system. Now, that is a very simple mandate to have, because all you need to make sure is your services are up and running at any one point. But then you just stop there and say, that is the mandate and that's how we'll go. That cannot be the case. The partners have to come in, because you have to co-create opportunities to reach the final users. So with our registrars, we've opened up our doors to them and said, do you have an idea that can give us some scale? Do you have things that you want us to do together? One, we will co-create it, and two, if possible, and within reason, we'll also be able to fund it. So again, to our registries, have we put some money aside to help our registrars grow their businesses? As you may be aware, most of our registrars are small scale, they're SMEs. So there are people with 2-3 people in the offices, they're probably handling 10, 15 domains. How do you help that person move from 15 domains to 30 domains? So that is a question, as KeNIC, we always ask ourselves. Does this register have potential? What is their potential? What suggestions have they brought? And can we assist them move that potential the next step? If we assist them, then also as KeNIC, our numbers continue to grow. And that is how we've built our business to where we are today. So we are third in the continent in terms of numbers. I'm chasing my friends from Nigeria. I don't know where they're hiding. Then we will catch up with ZA, and we shall surpass ZA, so lucky, watch out. But we cannot do it without our registrars. There's one question that my registrars have always asked, and I'll push this back to Barak and the committee. They tend to feel that sometimes the ICANN register, to become ICANN registered registrar is a tall order. So how do we make that simpler for them, so that they can be able to see the global market on how that is going on? There's something else that is very key for it. Collaboration with your regulator. For us in Kenya, our regulator is probably the best big brother we can have. They have enabled the environment that allows KeNIC to work within its mandate and outside its mandate. In terms of just saying, you guys have an idea, we've given you the authority to run this, wherever you need your help, come and ask us for help. They have put us in committees around policy development, they've put us around in committees around business development, just to ensure that when the authority is going for a meeting, KeNIC will have to be in that meeting. If the authority is developing something, we will be called as key stakeholders to that meeting. And that has then just changed the landscape to something that happened for us critically this year, which was mentioned yesterday. We were gazetted as critical information infrastructure. Now, what does a gazettement mean in Kenya? It means that you're more focused, there's more focus on you, there's more focus on your operations. The government is now more interested in what you're doing, and also the government is interested in how they can support you grow. So from a business trend, we ask ourselves, and that's something that as my colleagues in the other CCTLDs, is the authority and other people around that ecosystem of the regulator supporting you grow? Or as someone mentioned in the morning, is some regulators are now saying this business has to come back to us. It cannot be autonomous anymore. It must sit as a department within the authority. For Kenya, that is not even a thought they would want to have. They're happy that the fact that this is a stable organization, it has its people, it has credible people who are working there, professionals who can actually deliver. So again, from a business perspective in your countries, is the regulator becoming more involved in the right or wrong way? It is something that is coming out more, and with that then it brings its challenges across. Something else, and probably the last comment I'll make before we take some questions, is around training and just awareness. What are we doing around that? So Kenya has been very critical in terms of ensuring DNSSEC is happening. We are not there in terms of the numbers of the people who would want to sign, but we've actually ensured that we're offering training to our registrars and even registrants who want to actually learn about signing. So that's something that we're looking at. And how then do we grow that? We have gotten partners around the world who are able to come and partner and train on behalf of KeNIC for free, if I may add, because there are people out there who are interested in seeing how the growth of KeNIC and the CCTLD is moving. The last one, which is a big business trend, is moving away from just looking at things from a technical perspective to looking at things from a marketing perspective. So we're laughing here with Barak and we're asking ourselves, and I'll ask the people in the room, CCTLD managers, please put up your hands. CCTLD managers, I know you're here. Some of you came with me in the morning. I think I have about 6 or 7, right? And please don't take me to task over lunch, but I'll ask a question. How many of you came with your marketing material about your CCTLDs? How many? How many carried a flyer? Grace? Okay. So how are we going to know about you? Please pick the business cards before you go, because this is a global issue. This is Africa content. I may want to have a domain name from Senegal or from Nigeria. So it is not that I want to have, obviously I'll have my .ke, but I may want to go into another region. If not, I know Lucky usually has his on, so we'll all take .africas to cover for the continent. But some of the things are changing. We need to look at our business from a marketing perspective. Any opportunity that you have to meet new people, to meet people across the world, you must tell them who you are and what you do. Now that is the key thing for me, and that is what KeNIC has been pushing. And how have we done it? For me, one of the things that we've done as KeNIC is ensure that we are in all ICANN meetings, all FTLD meetings. We are members of FTLD. CCTLD managers, again, how many of you are members of FTLD? I hope all of us here, because that's our association. So that association, we must strengthen it. Through that association, it gives us that voice that when we go into an ICANN meeting, then we are a voice from Africa talking about African issues. So again, if you're not a member, Barak, I'm sure Barak carries the forms in his laptop bag. So please join FTLD and ensure that you're a member. So I'll stop there for now. And if there are questions, we are happy to address. Back to you, B. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel. Very, very insightful, very thoughtful, very deep thoughts that have gone into the presentation. Some of the things that you said, it was like you actually did peep into my notes, which are some of the questions that I was going to push for. Now, if you have questions, please, if you are in the room, raise up your hand. If you are online, please put the question. You can either raise up your hand or put the question in the question and answer box. Our time is very well spent, but we will try to see how we manage this to have a bit more conversation around the things. Now, something that has come up from the discussion, both for the technical side and also from the business side by Joel, is the thought around collaboration. I know that a few years ago, KeNIC and NIRA did sign an agreement to have cross-border collaboration where people from different parts of Africa, where people from Nigeria could register on .ke and where people from Kenya could register on .ng. But that has stalled. Why do we have those issues? Is it a technical problem? Is it a business problem? Or is it just a problem of the fact that we have issues around currencies and stuffs? So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Neil, Joel, can we have a seamless Africa as far as the DNS industry is concerned? So thoughts from any one of you.
There's a question from the room, Dusan. There's Kivuva. There is Yazid. Any more?
Okay, so let's have the question. I'll keep my own question. We get the ones from the room, and then we can have two gentlemen come back to that. So let's have the questions. Since you are there, Barak, you are my eye there, so you are going to pick the numbers, how the questions came. Let's go.
Okay.
Dusan Stoicevic, hardly for you to pronounce. I'm coming from registrar side, and I'm ICANN accredited registrars. So first question will be, if you don't like people to register.com or any other GTLD, why do you need ICANN accredited registrars in Africa? Because with ICANN accreditations, you are getting .com, GTLDs, etc., new GTLDs. This is first question. Second question is rather specific. In KeNIC, you said about critical infrastructure, and that you have 200 registrars. So as a critical infrastructure, do you test your whole infrastructure for incidents, etc., etc.? So do you test, for example, registrars, their side, their systems, because they can be a matter of criminal activity through their system. There can be a matter of that part. And last thing, CCTLD and GTLD. So there is a huge difference when we are talking about that. For example, about efficiency. You put the numbers for KeNIC, asking for businesses, which is right thing to ask. And I totally agree with you about marketing perspective and everything what you said. But efficiency of CCTLD is not only going to that direction, it's going into very different directions. So for example, my question would be, how many registries in Africa is using EPP? So how many of them are automated? So automation is one of the key components of efficiency of CCTLD. How do you see that? Thank you.
Thank you, Dusan.
There's one more, Mr. Kivuva, and then Yazid.
Thank you, Barack. So in Kenya, we are lucky because we have a marketing expert as the CEO of KeNIC. We know KeNIC is one of the best run registries in Africa. So since all domains were born equal, as somebody likes saying, I don't know if it's Bob or Barack, then the competition for CCTLDs is actually the GTLDs. And why do people go for the GTLD? Maybe they want, maybe the pricing, the local domain space, you might find it's more expensive than the GTLD. Number two, people will go for GTLD because of they want to have maybe a generic presence. They don't want to be confined to, say, Kenya. They want to operate maybe in Africa or global. But then coming to the pricing, Joel has said we have like 3 million businesses in Kenya. Of those 3 million businesses, how many of them have domain names? And if they have domain names, how many of them are generic domain names? Because now that one is your competition, the ones who are not on .ke. So do we have such data in Kenya? Or even across Africa, do we have such data across Africa? How many businesses are on generic domain names? Now, on pricing, I'll just talk as a registrar in the example of Kenya. A domain is roughly $10 probably, and we have 100,000 domains. That gives us $1 million a year. So would we rather have domains at $10, 100,000, or have 500,000 domains at $5? In a year, your revenue will be $2.5 million because your competition with GTLDs will be pricing. Slash that price, do an experiment, put the domains at $4 and in the next year, and we see what happens, because you still have so good reserves, so you will not suffer. And we see if you will reach $1 million. Let's 1 million domains within a year. Let's do these experiments and we see how our domain name system will prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. Yazid.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yazid. I'm from technical engagement team, ICANN. Some of my questions were already provided by the previous speakers, but I still have two questions to Neil. The first one is, how do you collaborate with other registries in the continent to also build or enhance the system to actually understand how the market behaves and what are the trends? And the second question is more technical. I'm interested in your Snowflake analysis tools. Is it something which is embedded by default on Snowflake, or you purchase some additional features? Thank you.
Yeah, let's have answers to those. But because of time, this is getting really interesting. However, because of time, we need to answer these questions as quickly as we can. I'm trying to get us out of here by 15 after the hour. So Joel, Neil, let's have those questions that were asked to you. Let's have your answers to them quickly, but make the answers very short. Thank you.
Joel, are you going to go first?
Yeah, let me go first. Mine look a bit more controversial. One, NIRA KeNIC MOU that Biyi has talked about, that was in place, but we didn't really follow it up in terms of how do we execute it, and I think that is something that we need to look at in terms of how then do we get different markets to be able to work together. Obviously, there are challenges, as said, around payments, but that now I don't think for Kenya is an issue. We have probably the most robust mobile payment system in the world. So it's just about how to integrate, and maybe my partners who are here from different fintechs, this is something that we need to unpack. How do we then ensure that different markets are able to interact with each other from a payment perspective? When it comes to registrars and the ICANN accredited, I think for us in Kenya, registrars have an open market. So registrars will sell either .coms or they'll sell .kes. And I think for them wanting to be ICANN accredited registrars just allows them to access a bigger marketplace. So for them, it's not about, we've not locked them. So Kenya is not locked that a registrar can only sell .ke. They can sell any domain they want. We encourage as KeNIC for them to do .ke, but because they want to be ICANN accredited, I think they've seen this business potential outside this market. Obviously, I'm not the happiest, but I always encourage that it's an open market, and Kenya is an open market for them to look at. When we look at critical information infrastructure, you asked about our 200 registrars. One, we have registrar agreements with all our registrars, and part of that agreement has certain regulation and standards that they must always follow. So one, automation is a must. So all our registrars, someone asked about automation. Our registrars are automated, they use EPPs. So they ensure that the way they are logging into the registry and working with us is all automated. I've not seen a registrar coming to see us really around the registration. So we then also go and do tests from time to time with our registrars. So we'll go and see how long does it take for you to register a domain? What are your backups? What are you using as your infrastructure? So those are conversations we constantly have with our registrars. Obviously, we then have the regulator. So all our registrars, if you're to be registered as a registrar with KeNIC, you must also be registered at the authority. The authority also then has its own standards that they give to those registrars. So again, it's a two-pronged approach just to ensure that we are working with the right people at any one time. When I look at the questions from Kivuva, yes, so we've been trying to collect data. And here I'll be honest, and I'll throw this back to my registrars. I have come to you with surveys to tell me how many .kes, because I know how many you've registered, how many .coms have you registered? You will not tell me. Is that the truth? You will not give me that data because you know I will then come with my whip to say that you're not supporting me as much as you should be supporting me. We've done some surveys. It looks like out of those 3 million, apart from the 100,000 domains, we probably have more than 500,000 people on those .coms and the rest, and even more. I would even put it more of 1 million plus. Definitely, the last survey I think we did .ke as opposed to .coms. I think I'm only about 30% of the registrations in terms of domains in the country. I would want more, and I need more. So that is something that we are pushing for. Coming to pricing, yes, I wish I had my calculator. That $1 million looks like a nice number. It is not really a nice number. Let me tell you why. When I have had conversations with my registrars telling me reduce the amount, I have gone and reduced the amount. When I've gone to my registrants, they are still paying the same amount. Why are you not passing that benefit to your registrants? If you recall, for those of you, when I joined, we were selling a domain at $10. We reduced it slightly. My registrants are still paying $20. You're making more money than me. Let us have a halfway point. If you pass it on, I'm sure my people will agree to reduce. But at the moment, I've even done campaigns where I've reduced by half. On .me.ke, I gave you for $3. You are still charging $15. So let's have this candid discussion. If you want it reduced, the final consumer, who is all we are serving, must be able to feel the impact of that. Secondly, why am I making $1 million? Thank you for that number. I also have overheads. Now, there's some overheads that we, as this room, need to discuss. And that's why you see partners, and I hope you'll see them in the booths later. Cost of internet was expensive.
Well,
Cost of my data center was expensive. Cost of running my business was expensive. If we can collaborate as African countries and negotiate as FTLD for a data center or something of the sort, that reduces our cost in totality. Maybe that will also give our businesses the ability to reduce our costs. So that's a conversation we need to have. How are we leveraging on our partners? How are we ensuring that our partners are able to give us a better pricing? Then we're able to pass on that pricing to our registrars and finally our registrants. So yes, obviously that cost of, in terms of domains, and I think, and I will take a survey at lunchtime. I think Kenya is the cheapest domain in Africa, but I will do that survey later. Apart from Lucky.
All right, Joel.
$30, $50 a domain. So let's have that conversation over lunch.
Joel, thank you
Yeah,
so much,
those
Joel.
are my questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Neil, just very quickly, let's hear from you, and then we'll close the session.
Thanks, Biyi. I know I'm under time pressure, so I'll be quick. The one question around why would CCTLD administrators really be concerned about promoting ICANN accreditation? There's not really a lot of reasons for the reasons you've mentioned, but one upside is that becoming an ICANN accredited registrar does introduce you to sort of more global standards, makes you more mature as a technical provider, and this is very useful for registry operators to have partnerships with people that are, affair with international standards and policies. From a critical infrastructure perspective, we do automation testing on all registrars that are onboarding onto our registry system. We have 680 registrars for ZA, for CO.ZA, that is. All 680 have integrated via EPP, and there is an automated testing environment on the onboarding process that tests whether they're able to actually successfully integrate. We also provide a permanent operational testing and evaluation infrastructure for registrars to test their integrations against, as has become a global standard. The question of why people would choose GTLDs over CCTLDs, I said it in the answers previously, but I believe any domain, whether it's a CCTLD or GTLD, must add value in the eye of the holder, in the eye of the registrant and the end user community. Some people will prefer a geographically locked domain like a CCTLD because it tells the people something about their business, about their affiliation, about where they're based. It makes sure that their products and services are relevant to that market. But others might choose a GTLD because they rather want to associate with a particular industry like .bike or .shop or something like that, or a specific trade or community or something like that. So various reasons, obviously pricing and reliability also factor into that. The biggest competitor we face in South Africa is undoubtedly .com. It is still .com. So the CCTLD is in our environment is more successful than .com in terms of registration numbers, we believe. But we are trying to grow African GTLDs like .Africa and make that a viable alternative if someone doesn't particularly just want a CCTLD name. They want an African name, for instance, or a more generic name. Then we would try and push African generic domains to them. Then the last question from the last person that asked was, we try and collaborate with registries throughout Africa. But obviously, we know there are collaboration issues and challenges. What we've done in terms of how we formulate our own strategy around product innovation and development is to look at the sort of environment in South Africa, which is also split between a formal type of economy and an informal economy. And we believe that what holds true for how we approach the informal economy, informal traders, will also hold true for other parts in Africa. So a lot of what we're trying to tackle, we believe that the foundations for how to engage a certain community or bring them closer to the domain name systems and services is that there's commonalities that South Africa and African countries share with each other. And obviously, we still need to collaborate through forums like this as to how we can deal with these issues. And the last question was just around Snowflake. Snowflake was actually just an incidental platform that we settled on at the end of the day because it's really geared for data warehousing. Initially, we were planning to develop our data warehouse using PostgreSQL and sort of maintain it internally or in-house. But I must say that Snowflake has a lot of advantages in terms of its features and functions that make data analysis and data warehousing slightly more attractive. And for now, we're sort of committed to that platform, but the door is still open to do it in-house on a PostgreSQL sort of data environment. I hope that answers all the questions. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you for all those who have questions. So many other questions that have been asked. There are about 3 questions in the Q&A room, but we can't take all of them because we have already overshot our time, and I don't want to be the one standing between you and lunch. All right. So my advice would be for us to take this and continue the discussions over lunch. And for those who would like to engage with Neil, I'm sure that we can get Neil's email address from somewhere. But one critical thing stands, and that's the fact that we're not collaborating enough in Africa, and we need to sit ourselves down and speak to ourselves the truth. The DNS industry is a business, and we need to take it as one. Yes, we have a few governments who are taking over CCTLD registries and all of that. We need to come together and say, this is how we want to forge this ahead in Africa, and let us be able to move together. Thank you so much for the audience, and thank you, Neil. Thank you, Joel, for the thoughts that you shared. I really would have loved to allow you to give me closing remarks, but my time is already overshot. All right, so thank you so much, and for this opportunity to moderate and drive this discussion. Over to you, Barak.
Thank you very much, Biyi. A round of applause for Biyi. It's truly a hybrid meeting. He's been able to moderate it very well from wherever he is. We've been under pressure to stop this session, but I know the questions kept coming and it became more interesting. Let's continue with these conversations during the lunch and after the break. Also, a round of applause to Neil and to Joe. I think they have done justice to the panel or to the session. Most of them are still around. I believe we will also provide Neil's contact. I've seen requests for the presentation for further engagement with him. Now, Bob has a quick announcement, a couple of housekeeping issues, and then we will give you instructions on how to proceed with the next steps, which is basically lunch. May I request that in view of the interesting discussions that are taking place, we try and have a quick lunch and be back. I know that there are many hands that were raised here. We were not able to take the questions. We can still take the questions when we begin in the afternoon. We'll make sure that we have a session to address those concerns or those questions, because we don't want you to go away with ideas that could benefit the whole room. So if you have a question that we have not been able to tackle, note it down, pack it, we'll give you a chance in the afternoon. but I must tell you, expect more interesting sessions to come up. Bob?
Thank you very much, Barak. I will not take any much longer. Probably just to also encourage us to be logging in online and to also do post your questions. That way we have a record of them in case any of them is missed. So my task is to just let you know that we'll have vouchers for lunch as you walk out. Lunch will be served on third floor, just like yesterday. But before that, we have a request for a group photo of all of us.